Man, I look a mess. That's okay. Let's make breakfast together. Good morning. Good morning. I feel a little bit because I don't have on earrings. So hold on. Shit. Okay, this is better. How y'all doing? How's everybody doing? Man, I'll be feeling mad naked at the face when I don't have on earrings, so that's better. How's everybody? Okay. See if I can get this up a little. Oops, that's lower, not higher. Higher. All right, y'all. I'm not going to take all of y'all's time like I normally do when I start these morning messages. We're going to get right into it, maybe, sort of. Let me see what's going on. Oh, it's down here. Sorry. Okay, boom. Shit. Okay. Now we're there. All right. Good morning. Good morning. I got a little bit different setup today. I'm just playing around, doing whatever I feel like doing, and this is what I feel like doing. Cause I think I'm gonna make some pancakes. Boop boop boop. In a little bit. And y'all know how I do. I just wake up in the morning and decide how I feel like showing up on the morning messages, and then that's the version y'all get. So, yeah. Good morning and welcome to Morning Messages with Alami. Yes, my name is Alami Bashir. I am an intuitive self-mastery coach, and I welcome y'all. Because every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern, I do a live intuitive message, a morning message. It's always a mystery what we're going to talk about, but usually I use a deck of cards to help channel some intuitive messages that are well intended to help you move through the day with some kind of conscious intention, positive mindset. Yeah. And a mindset for growth and change. So I welcome y'all. Let's get started. And if you want to learn more about me, what I do, and how I be doing it, go to begreateveryday.com. Okay, so let me feel for the messages. I already have my Moonology deck in my hand. Y'all know I love this deck. It's so pretty. But let's see what comes through today. I feel like I want to start with a little bit of a story time before we jump into it. Let's see if I can turn this down a little bit. Hola, hola. Yay, I do have a viewer. Thank you. I love you for that. Thank you for chiming in. Okay. So let's talk culture for a second, okay? Normally I get on this platform, we talk about a lot of different things, usually things related to personal growth and professional development. But let's see, I feel like talking about something a little bit different today. There's a lot of stuff going on in the media right now around DEI, and people are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's a lot to talk about with that, right? There's a lot to say about that. But I feel like we're going to talk about DEI from like this cultural influence perspective. Okay. We don't need to talk about race and those kinds of things. We can talk about culture. We don't need to talk about people's facial features and skin tones. I want to talk about culture today in today's morning message. Now, what and why? Okay. So when I was in college, I went to college and got a bachelor's degree in sociology. And sociology, in a nutshell, is like the study of society and how it's organized. And in studying society and how it's organized, you, of course, cross over into themes of like culture and, cultural influences on society or groups of people. When we talk about culture, we're talking about a group of people who share a certain set of values or traditions and morals and ethics. They may share similar wardrobe or choices. They may share similar hairstyles. They may share similar, of course, language and music and food. There's so many aspects of culture that is defined, right? That we can define it by these different experiences or aspects, okay? That's usually how we look about culture. When we talk about Black people or Black culture, there are certain aspects of food and dress and language and attitude and mindset that are kind of predisposed culturally speaking, right? Okay. And then there's something that we call like a vibe. Okay. Like this is an interesting conversation, but certain some of us, just culturally speaking, we have different vibes that we give off. Okay. And that vibe that we usually we know it's a thing as we talk about things like Black girl magic. We know that vibration is a thing culturally speaking, but we never talk about it from that perspective. We never talk about vibrations as an aspect of culture. Like what? Like, yeah, like certain foods, certain cultures like beans and rice as a staple in their tradition. There's a certain energy that also is predisposed to certain cultures that may not come through food, but it is actually a vibration. Okay. I know when I'm hanging out with some of my Latino brothers and sisters, I feel a very strong energy of family support. Okay. It comes through language of love and, good deeds and sharing and all those kinds of things. But there's a vibration energetically that is in those acts that is unique to that culture. It's why we like to travel to certain places because it's an energy in the air. So we never think about culture like this. Okay, we never talk about it like this, and it's everywhere. When you go, you travel to certain areas, even before you start talking to anybody says anything to you, you feel the energy in the air. Okay, and that energy feels different than when you're at home in that energy, or when you go to, the next state over and you're in that energy. It's a different vibration that comes through cultural influences. Okay. So I don't know why this is coming through as part of our morning message, but it does feel like we need to start talking about these things. Like the fact that I feel a certain vibration when I'm in certain communities is not just because of the way they look. Okay, there's a frequency. Okay. Whew. And I don't know. This is an interesting message, and I hesitate to continue in it because I don't want people out here being like, yeah, that's why I don't like those people, is because they energy be off. And it's like, okay, yeah, to just not like a whole group of people because you say they have a certain energy. It's like, I wouldn't want everybody judging me based on what they perceive to be the energy of the Black culture, and especially if it's not positive. If they have a negative impression of our energy, as they call it, I wouldn't want to be labeled by that. Okay. So in as much as it is true, okay, that there are cultural frequencies that are palatable, that we can recognize the difference in how I feel in this vibe versus how I feel in that vibe. I mean, there's something to be said for it. Okay, and there's a need for us to pay attention to it today for some reason. Okay. So I have friends that I know feel unsafe when they are in certain communities, especially if they're in isolation in those communities. I know for people that, you know, if they're in a whole all white community and they're the only black person there, they're going to probably move around because they don't feel comfortable. And I also know white friends that would do the same. Okay. Hell, I know black people that would move around if they're in the room with too many black people. So I don't know that it's really about race. Okay. It's an energy and frequency. To that end, I know literally my sister, she can go and be in a room full of white people. She feels absolutely at home. It's where she feels most at home. That's her, and that's the energy that she connects with. That's the flow that works for her. Hey, everybody does what works for them. But there's a lot of importance being put on this today, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know what you all have going on in your life, but there's a need to really pay attention to, you know, some cultural influences on your energy. Okay. It's like, I know for me, being here in a Latin American country, it has made me more communal. I, by nature, have a more reflexive reaction to saying hello to strangers everywhere I go, versus when I was in the States, this is not how I moved. I naturally am becoming more open to more communal practices like open air kitchens. And, you know, open air kitchens is a thing here. Kitchens are outside and you may share a kitchen with your neighbor. You know, it's a thing here. So it's like learning how to adapt to these kinds of experiences. It's creating a different imprint on me, a different impression on me. I'm receiving a cultural influence energetically from this environment. Okay. So I don't know why this is important to talk about today. I would love to know whoever might resonate with this and feel struck by why is this conversation coming forth. But it's a need to kind of talk about cultural influences. Okay. And cultural influences is like how your environment has played a role in how you think, how you move, how you act. Okay. It's like, it's really paying attention to that today. Some of you grew up in, you know, really unique circumstances where you grew up in a poverty area, or you grew up in affluence, or you grew up around the Asian community, or you grew up around the West Indian community. Like, these different influences outside of us have really come to shape us in some really unique ways. Okay. It's like no one maybe sat you down and taught you any, quote, school lessons through these experiences, but there's these experiences have left trademarked impressions on you. Okay. So it's a lot of energy around paying attention to your cultural influences and the impact on your decision making. Okay. I was talking recently to some other folks about something similar, about how, I was on Threads, actually, is what I was doing. I was talking in this public platform about mental health. And there was a therapist on the platform who had made a bold statement saying, essentially, kind of in short, the person was saying how annoyed they are that they have to, how annoyed they are that certain therapists are being friends with their clients. Okay. And she was just like aghast as to why therapists think it's okay to be friends with their clients. Okay. And so clearly there are some legal and ethical challenges to that as a blanket statement, right? You know, just, you know, one might assume, okay, definitely not a current client. And there's some protocols around when you can open up to social relationship. When is it appropriate? Kind of generally speaking, they say don't, but, you know, a certain amount of time has passed, then there's more kind of social acceptability around it. But the blanket statement of therapists should never be friends with their clients triggered in me a response that said, oh, well, that's very interesting. I said, well, who told you that? And you have to know that I'm not a licensed therapist by choice, but I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, so I'm very well versed on the legal and ethical ramifications of a social relationship with a therapist. So there are boundaries to this, but this blanket statement of like it should just never happen. I said in my response to that, I said, well, that's a fascinating approach. I said, where are you getting that? Why do you think that? And I know, all the legal and ethical things that they're taught and conditioned and that they have to uphold in order to maintain their license. I understand all of that. But I said, where are you getting all of this? That's actually not true. That, I said, what do you think that spiritual elders did? What do you think spiritual elders did when they were pouring into and helping to heal members of the community? You think they just poured it out and shut their back, like, don't talk to me ever because we're not on the same level? Or was it, a different? And so, I just kind of introduced this casual conversation challenging this notion of why have you established such a rigid rule around this? Okay, and it's not to say open the door with every current client. No, it should not be with a current client, period. However, this blanket, it can never happen, I thought was kind of irrational, honestly. And I started to buck up against, in my questioning about it, what do you think elders did? When we take psychology, quote unquote, out of the equation, which psychology, of course, was founded by a particular demographic of people from a different or certain perspective, diagnosing some things but not other things. In my opinion, racism should be classified in the DSM as a mental health issue, but that's a different conversation. So my questioning of like, well, who made these rules? Okay, who decided that this could never be a thing between therapists and their clients, that they could never have a personal social relationship that is healthy and boundary stricken, right? And post their therapeutic exchange. Who says that this can't happen? And where's your value system being sourced that says that this could never happen? And what about our previous value system before we were colonized and inundated with individuality as a primary goal of wellness? And in African psychology and African spirituality itself, everything is communal. Healing happens in communal ways. Community is essential to healing. That rapport building, that trust, that connection, that communication is essential to the healing process for someone of color. So it was just kind of food for thought. But my point being that it's so important that we are aware of where we're sourcing our own value system, okay? Sometimes we take on the cultural values and influences of another, not recognizing that we have done so because it just happens so seamlessly sometimes, okay? So pay big attention to what cultural influences are playing into your value system. And to that end, even when we start talking about things like money, and if we're not even talking about money, if we're talking about purpose, let's say we're talking about purpose, and we're talking about, work, we're not even talking about money. We quickly start shifting into value systems that we may want to question. Those of you like, well, if I have to have money, 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 and money is everything. That's a value system that starts to supersede relationship. Okay, it starts to supersede things like health. It supersedes things like joy. These are other things we say we value, but when we value this other stuff at the top, it's like it starts to mimic the value system of maybe some cultural influences that we were learned, that we've been taught. Okay, it's a dog eat dog world out there. You got to get it for yourself. Get it before they get you. That competition-based spirit. These are cultural influences too. So it's a lot of energy around paying attention to how these cultural influences may be impacting your decision making. Okay. All right. Let's get into some cards. Okay. So to that end, okay, the first card that came out says, cut your losses. This is the moon in detriment. Cut your losses. So I feel like we're being called to really check our value system around, like, how are we sourcing how are we making the decisions that we make in life, and how are we sourcing that intelligence? This card says cut your losses, and I feel like this is coming forward because I feel like some of us have been nurtured in environments, and this is again not about race, this is about culture. A group of people who have an agreed set of traditions, habits, practices, languages. Again, I want you to think about not just the people who socialized you, but the cultural influences that have impacted you, which could be your immediate family, your immediate neighborhood. It might be your school family, school neighborhood, whatever community environments that you have been a part of. Each community has its own subculture, okay? So for instance, having been in a profession where, in counseling, having been in an organization, I should say, that really valued overworking and overfunctioning. Okay, workaholism was not the exception. It was kind of like the expected rule. And so those cultural indoctrinations might lead you to think that unless you are performing in said fashion, that you are not actually being productive. And those cultural influences, this is not about race, this is not about food, this is not about clothes. These are still cultural influences that impact the way we think, the way we see ourselves, what we think is possible for ourselves even. So, hi, Crystal. So it's a lot of energy around paying attention to these influences, because when it comes time to letting go of things or cutting your losses, there's a value system that gets bumped up against there that says, I don't want to quit, or I don't want to be seen as a failure, or I don't want to be without. If I don't have, then I'll be without. Okay. These are value systems that are inherent in certain cultural values. It's not actual truth. It's not true that if you let go of something that you lose it, or it's lost, or it's gone. What actually is true in the spiritual realm is when you let go of something, you actually make space for the thing that is supposed to be there. Okay. So this energy of cut your losses, this becomes a value system that we are indoctrinated into, this is hard, I should say, because we are often indoctrinated into systems that tell us, don't quit, okay, keep going even though it's hard, just push through. We are indoctrinated into systems of thought that lead us to think that just because we're uncomfortable is not sufficient enough reason to stop or let go. It's like we're taught just the opposite. It's like you gotta dig deeper when it gets harder, okay? As opposed to doing something that actually is more intuitive. Because when your intuition, your instincts, and everything in you is saying, I don't want to, I'm done, I'm lost, I'm out, and when you're still pushing, that might be the time to cut your losses. Okay, that might be the time to kind of revisit, why are you still trying so hard, working so much, doing the things? Like, why? Where is this value system coming from? Is it actually your value system, or are you trying to uphold the value systems of some expectation or someone else or something else that you think is more valuable than your own sentiment, your own sense of feel good? Okay. All right. I don't know. But the next card I got, it says patience. Okay. Patience. And and it feels like I need to, what I want to say, slow down. It just feels like, as we're talking about the impact of cultural influences, our environment, the people in our environment, the energies in our environment. It feels like a need to kind of slow down and really slow walk this exploration into this, to really start to write down, like, what are some of the cultural influences that play into my decision making? Okay, for some of you, it's religious cultural influences. For others of you, it's more professional, work-related indoctrination. For others of you, it's parental, it's familial indoctrination. Okay. And so on and so forth. There's so many ways in which we are influenced by our environment. Okay, not just the people, but the value system of our environment. Okay. And so much so that we can very much get lost in thinking that those expectations and beliefs and standards are naturally our own, even if they don't resonate. Okay. So it's pay attention, okay, to what is impacting your decision making. And that this card says patience, so I feel like there's a need to really slow walk this. This is some layers of self-examination y'all don't do, and it's not something people naturally are thinking about. So when you start thinking about, another way to kind of couch this is how have you been conditioned? Okay. Who, what, when, where, and how have you been conditioned? What influences play into how you make decisions? Okay. What influences play into how you make decisions? And we're talking cultural influences, so that means things that specifically are in your ecosystem. Okay. People, places, things, okay, in your ecosystem. How are they influencing the way you think? Okay. And I got the card of knowledge here, so it gives like, hey, you got to slow walk this, because this is not going to be on the forefront of what you be thinking about yourself, okay? You just be thinking, you have thoughts and you lead your life based off what you be thinking and feeling, but really we have a whole hidden aspect of ourselves that plays out in our life, and we call that our subconscious or our unconscious ways, okay? This card says knowledge because, again, I feel like this is what we're talking about, is getting to like kind of these subconscious influences on our mindset and our behavior. The things that are influencing us that we don't actually pay attention to, okay? It's just a part of how we were raised, okay? Or what we saw all the time and whatever the other people think and believe. It's like the way in which we make decisions in the world oftentimes doesn't have anything to do with what we actually think we need or actually think we want. We are playing into everybody else's stereotype or reason or anticipation at every turn. Okay. So this card says knowledge because it's just like a need to really slow down and pay attention to, where do you get this shit from? Where do you get this mindset, this belief, this doubt, this worry? Where is this shit coming from? Okay, like who in your ecosystem conditioned you to be this way if this is not your default? Okay. We talk cultural influences. We're talking all kinds of environmental impact. Things that have impacted you that come from outside of you, okay? A lot of energy around that, okay? A lot of need to really break that down, okay? Examine. Why do you do the things that you do? Where did it come from? Where did you learn it? Okay. Where can you trace it back to? Okay. It's a lot of energy around really paying attention into whatever groups or organizations or clubs or, and group can be family also, okay? Groups, organizations, clubs, schools, agencies, firms, any kind of group dynamic that has influenced you, okay? This could be classes, okay? They're showing me acting classes. Some of you have been greatly influenced through acting, okay? And acting has taught you a certain way of being or thinking, okay? That means I got some actors in the audience. You never know who's watching your content, okay? This card says embrace uncertainty. Okay. Embrace uncertainty. So it's like certain things about yourself, you may not be able to actually trace it back. Okay. There's certain things you may not be able to trace it back to a certain person or experience or like moment in time. Like, where did I learn this behavior and develop this attitude? Like, where did I get this from? It's like you may not be able to nail it all the way, trace it all the way back to its origin, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't still explore it. Okay. It's like so much of our conditioning comes unconscious. It comes even before we are pre-verbal. So much we learn about our safety in the world, about how well our needs get met, around how well we can trust other people. So many aspects of our lived experiences shaped even before we can fully articulate sentences. Okay. That parent-child relationship, that family of origin bond, that starts to shape our world and our reality immediately. Okay. So there's so many aspects of our conditioning. You may feel like a general skepticism in the world, and everybody around you loves you and proves that they are trustworthy, but still you have tremendous skepticism. Some parts of this you may not ever really be able to understand just in your thinking mind. Now, I will say, if you dive deeper into your human design, you can get even closer to things that maybe you can't consciously reach, but because in your human design, it helps you to see more of your unconscious self. So this energy of uncertainty, it's like, don't use that as like, well, I'll never know, I can't tell, and I don't remember. It's like, don't use that as a reason to not explore yourself, okay? Again, today's message is really centering around paying attention to what has influenced you, okay? What in your ecosystem throughout your life has actually played a role in how you see yourself and how you see the world around you, okay? It's like a whole body of knowledge and wisdom that you're living life not paying attention to because you just don't ask yourself these kinds of questions. So it's slow down, take a moment, check in, and see what you come up with. And if you're like, oh, I don't know, it's like, be okay with saying and feeling, I don't know, but don't stop. Okay. I don't know doesn't mean stop, hard stop. I don't know means maybe I need more time to let it surface, to seep in. I don't know means maybe I need to slow down, be even more quiet, more patient so I can hear better. I don't know doesn't mean, oh, I don't know. I'll just never know. And then you stop your self-exploration there. Okay. So I don't recommend that. I definitely don't recommend that. Today's message is about paying attention. Okay. So I do recommend that you take time to pay attention. And just because something doesn't come the first time you sit with it doesn't mean it's not there. Okay. And it might just be an invitation for you to slow down even more, to be with yourself even more intimately, to connect more closely with your subconscious mind and thoughts and reflexes. Okay. All right. One more card or two. Y'all resonating with these messages? Okay, y'all ain't said hello. Y'all ain't like the video. Y'all not giving me no love today. What happened? What'd I do? What I do? I'm hungry. Okay? Talking about making them damn pancakes because I'm hungry. All right. Man, God is so good. All right. Period. And whatever this is, we're going to look at this too. Period. Look, happiness. But look, we also got denial. Let me turn this thing around. Ugh. Happiness. Come on, Alani. Jesus. Okay. I don't know why I can't find the front of the camera right now. There it is. There's a glare. Happiness. I'm aware that being happy means that I'm on the right path. But we also have the card that says denial. I don't know why this is doing this. Come on. I'll show you this way. Denial. I acknowledge my fear, but I replace it with the insight of awareness. Okay? We got, I acknowledge my fear, but I replace it with the insight of awareness. And then we also have happiness. What up, Angel? Happiness says, I'm aware that being happy means that I'm on the right path. So listen, kids, what was I just saying? God is so good. Okay. And now I want to start dancing. Okay. Listen, like God is great. God is so magical. Like, man, I mean, listen, I'm gonna say this. I could sit and rejoice and feel glad and feel excited and get real hyped about my life and my relationship with my higher power. And that don't mean that I don't have things going on that's still creating challenges in my world. It's like just because challenges in my world doesn't mean that I'm gonna say that I'm sad or that I'm unhappy, because it's just not true. Like life is going life for the rest of life. So what am I gonna do? What am I supposed to do? Like, what am I actually supposed to do? Wait, hold on. Let me make this brighter. Okay, that's better. Yeah, like what am I actually supposed to do? What's up, Najee? So when y'all see me kind of bouncing around on camera and doing like, this is actual my real life. This is my actual real life joy. There is nothing performative. Trust me, when I have bad days, you probably won't see me a lot. I be hibernating in my bad days. I be self-containing and self-regulating and doing all the things. And it's like, just because I'm not hibernating don't mean I don't have shit going on. Shit is going on. Okay. But it doesn't steal my joy. It can't. I don't want it to. I can't let it steal my joy. It's like my joy is always going to be my job, and they will always be a reason that I can choose to be upset. I can choose to be sad. I can choose to be feeling any type of way that does not restore my joy. I just choose not to do it. And that doesn't mean I'm in denial. It means I replace my fear or my doubt. I'll replace this word fear, doubt, worry, insecurity, whatever the negative emotion is. But this card says, I acknowledge my fear, but I replace it with the insight of awareness. So, when people say, oh, you're in denial, like, how can you be happy? You're just in denial. Like, I don't think I'm in denial. I just know my God. I just know how things can happen. I live it repeatedly. I'm 50 years old. I wasn't born yesterday. This is my path. This is how it works. This is how my increase comes in. It's like I understand the assignment. So, happiness, I'm aware that being happy means that I'm on the right path. Literally, I went into a store yesterday, and when I tell you things are, fucking great. When I went to this little boutique store yesterday, and got some new earrings. I didn't put them on today, but in the store, cute little shop, she has some oracle cards in the back little corner, and it's just not for her, the owner, to read the cards. She just has the cards sitting out there and gives you an invitation, like pull a card for yourself if you want to. And damn it if I didn't pull the card happiness, and I'm just remembering it right now because it's in Spanish. So it said La Alegre. And La Alegre is the happy, like to be happy. And so when I pulled the card, that's exactly what the card said, is that to keep your vibration high, because when you are happy, you attract more abundance. And so some people will tell you, they will look at your circumstance and be like, girl, why are you fucking happy? Because you got plenty of shit to be stressed about and shit you got to deal with and shit you got to fix and figure out. Like, why are you so happy? Because happiness is a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice. Like, even on your best day, you still got shit going on. You just choose not to focus on that shit that you got going on that day. And like every day is that. It's more of that every day. Be great every day, no matter what. No matter what, because every day there's going to be a what. There's going to be something every day. So you not acknowledging your problems is not you going into denial, because these are two different experiences. Because denial means I'm not acknowledging my problem at all. I'm choosing not to acknowledge my problem at all. But I'm suggesting to you that true happiness is when you can acknowledge your problems and still choose joy in spite of those challenges. to choose the joy. That's happiness, choosing it, okay? You know, like to not just let your circumstances define your reality, but you have control over your reality despite your circumstances every day, no matter what, okay? So excited to get to this. Oh man, this level of maturity and awareness is called mastery because it no longer becomes about what's happening outside of you. It's no matter what, I am going to choose a higher vibrational thought, feeling, belief, word, or affirmation. I'm going to go higher, not lower, because I'm going to choose the direction. The direction is not going to choose me. Okay. I'm not doing it. I'm not willing to sacrifice and give away my peace and my freedom so easily to circumstance. Because circumstance is this constant. There's constant circumstances. It's always going, life is always, every day going to life. And you're going to just wait for something good to happen to then feel like, oh, I'm happy. No, it's like I'm going to focus on what brings that joy, what brings that happy, good feeling, that positive, upbeat vibration. And that doesn't mean I'm in denial. And again, these are two separate things. Denial means you are denying, ignoring that problems exist, as opposed to embracing those challenges and saying, hey, it doesn't have to define me. It's something I may have to deal with. I have to manage. I have to navigate it, but it doesn't have to define me. And it certainly doesn't have to take my peace. It certainly doesn't have to do that. Okay, but you're right. Najee says we got to get to certain levels of maturity, and that is absolutely correct. Okay, because even on your worst day, you can find joy. And trust me, I've had to too many times, which is why I know it's possible. I know it can be done. I know it because I did it. All right. Last chord. So as we're talking about cultural influences, okay, it's easy for us to kind of focus on like negative influences, things that don't necessarily refine us in ways we prefer, okay? But let's think about cultural influences that actually have poured into us, okay? As you heard me talking about, you know, now that I'm in this ecosystem here in this country and the influences that I'm picking up just by being in proximity to goodness, okay? Literally yesterday, I mean, the shit that happens to me, Vic and I call them magical moments because we have them like every fucking day where it's just something magical happens in our world. I mean, just we get to see something that, you know, eyes rarely see or be a part of something, or it just, we have magical moments every goddamn day. So yesterday's magical moment was we had gone to have breakfast. Actually, after the morning message, we went to have breakfast nearby, and one of the groundskeepers was cleaning up an area that was kind of close to the main road, and apparently had found a sloth that was just on the ground. And if you know anything about sloths, they always are single. They're not kind of pack animals, so you only just find one randomly. And they are better occupied in trees, but you will find them on the ground because they go on the ground to poop. Okay, so this particular sloth obviously was somewhere he didn't need to be. And so this ecosystem, okay, this place, this country, the cultural values and norms, and I've seen this with other experiences, like the day I saw a monkey fall out the tree, a really high tree, fell off the branch to the ground. Similarly, the locals go and treat the animals with respect because they know they're a part of this ecosystem. So they not just taking out their camera and taking pictures and look, googly eye, and they're looking at how can I help this animal usher back to safety into the ecology here. Like that's a regular O Tuesday. So this guy's found this sloth randomly at a part of the road where it didn't need to be because it was going to, you know, get hurt potentially. Picks up the sloth and is walking by me, and I'm like, wait, where are you going with the sloth? And he's just like, oh, I'm going to take him to the tree. And I say that to say, like, I've seen it multiple times where they cater to the animals here in the ecosystem. Many of us would be like, you know, flinching and ducking back and hiding for the hills for most of these things that are around here. But they respect the wildlife here. They literally live in community with them. So they're not trying to, kick them out of the way and shove them off somewhere. They're respectful. So I'm learning a lot of respect, not just for the land here, but for the animals, for the insects, even for the annoying kinds of bugs that we would most definitely be flinching from in the States. Like, I'm learning how to cohabitate in the ecosystem, in this universe. Like, just because I'm human doesn't mean I'm entitled to all of this territory. Because again, we start talking about cultural influences. There's a sense of entitlement that I know I've been raised to feel is mine, right? I should be. That's why they don't be liking us when we travel. We have a cultural sense of entitlement as a country. But again, I say that to say that some of these nuances in how people live here are rubbing off on me in really beautiful ways. I'm starting to look at my environment with a lot more reverence and respect, even down to plants and plant life, paying attention to the things that are growing on around me. Okay. Which plants and flowers, which ones are edible, which ones you can use for medicines, and all these kinds of things that are literally at my fingertips. This wisdom, this knowledge and understanding, I'm just like sucking it all up. Okay. So cultural influences can I won't say make or break us, but they certainly can add value exponentially, okay? Or take it away. All right, let's see, I got a last card here. Card says discipline, okay? Discipline. So I don't think that this is speaking to this theme in the way that some of you might initially knee-jerk react to discipline. It's like we normally consider discipline to be kind of this rigid process of conforming to something in some way. A rigid process for conforming. And I'm actually feeling a different frequency coming from this card as we talk about, well, I'll say community, but culture, okay? But the community culture, I want to talk about not just cultural influences in general, like how we're conditioned by the world around us, but I want to talk about this notion of what some of you might call conformity, okay? When we talk about getting along with people in a group setting, okay? Whether it's a city, a nation, a family, or planet. When we talk about getting along with people in a group setting, if we talk about getting along, somebody automatically assumes that getting along means that I've got to conform. Okay. Getting along means I got to conform. I got to play into what they need or what they want or what's going to work best. Okay. Some of you have been indoctrinated into this mindset and this ideology, and it's for you to kind of go, again, trace it back. Okay. Where did you learn this? Where did you get this? That in order for things to work out, for you to fit in and things to work out, that you've got to conform. Where did you get this from? Okay. And what would be the opposite perspective? Maybe the opposite perspective might be that you could actually show up as your full self and be accepted in an environment cohesively. Okay. But that's not some of your defaults. You think in order for you to get along in a group environment, you've got to be the one to conform. Okay. So where did you get that from? Okay. And what if we were to redefine that premise or that ideology? What if we gave that some refinement? Okay. And instead of you looking at discipline as this need to conform, your discipline is your need to stay authentic. Okay. Maybe when you join a group and that instead of that being your cue that I've got to bend, shape, and mold, that's your cue to stand tall and firm. Okay. So this notion of discipline is not about, oh, I gotta conform. This notion of discipline is like, no, I gotta keep it straight. I gotta keep it tight and true to myself, authentic to what I think and believe and need and know. Okay. So it's a little different. The card says I can accomplish what I set my mind to. And that's why I mean it's different. It's based on what you set your mind to. Discipline doesn't necessarily mean conform. Discipline, if you set your mind to it, means that this is where you hold tight and steady. Keep it real. Be authentic and genuine. Okay. So we talk about cultural influences. Okay. You may have been raised in settings and in energies and families and situations where you were not rewarded for being your authentic self. You were rewarded when you played small or you denied your honest feeling or thought, and when you just got along. That's when you got rewarded. Okay. So this discipline is in allowing yourself to be your authentic self. Okay. And choosing that as your priority. Okay. Choosing that as your priority. And that doesn't mean you go in being a real fixed asshole, but it does mean that you give yourself privilege and permission to be principled based on what your values lie. Okay. Based on what's important to you. Okay. Woo. Okay. Okay, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. Y'all resonate with these messages? Pay attention to your cultural influences. Like what is shaping your mindset, your beliefs, your behaviors? Okay. Where'd you get this stuff from? What in your ecosystem, who in your ecosystem has taught you to think, believe, and act in these ways? What organizations, institutions, entities have you been a part of in your life that have impacted the way you see yourself or the world around you? Okay. It's for you to start to trace those things back today. Okay. Paying attention to what has influenced how you move in the world. Okay. All right. Food for thought. I like it. Okay. I like it. And the last thing I'm just going to end on in this morning message is just that reminder that, your joy is actually your job. And when you don't give yourself permission to just live that out loud, to just let your freak flag fly, whatever that means to you, to just be yourself and be fulfilled in whatever way it makes sense to you, even if it doesn't make sense to nobody. It's like, give yourself permission. Okay, so it's like this tracing back of what the cultural influences. It feels like, where did you learn you couldn't be yourself? Where did you learn you couldn't show up as your authentic self and be lovable and be well received? Where did you learn that? That might be our stopping point for today. It's a great journal prompt. Where did you learn that you couldn't show up and be yourself and be embraced? Okay. Oh, I would love for you all to share your stories in the back channel and the chats and all the places, because I'd be fascinated to know how these messages hit for y'all. If you want to stay connected, of course, I'm here every Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern, doing these live intuitive messages. But even outside of this, I hope y'all do know that I am an executive coach, and I don't just talk about all these things. I actually help walk people through these stages of transformation in their life. We use human design as a fundamental tool to help people understand themselves and come to understand the layers of conditioning that are disconnecting them from their authentic self. If you want to learn more about this and anything else that I got going on, I welcome you to tap into BeGreatEveryday.com, BeGreatEveryday.com, and book a coaching services discovery call or human design reading, whatever suits your pleasure. Vic just got here. Vic just got here. All right, we tapping out, y'all. Love you much. I will be back tomorrow. As we always say, life doesn't have to be perfect in order for you to be great every day, no matter what. You just got to make the conscious choice, y'all. So choose it. Have a great day. No matter what.